Welcome to Cherry Street Investor Education with Kavita Baratake, passive income coach and founder of Cherry Street Investments. Education that is designed for you to take control of your financial life. Join us to learn how you can create multiple passive income streams, diversify your portfolio, save on your taxes, and much more. Become a better investor and fast track your financial goals. Here's your host, Kavita Baratake.
Thank you everyone for joining. Excited to have Dr. Jamil on and kick 2023 off. So give it a few minutes, and I think we have a couple more people. Right. Hope your 2023 was off to a great start. I know a lot of folks are worried about recession and job layoffs and all of the other things going on in the economy right now. But, we choose to think through and deal with whatever is around us and keep our inner sort of self in this good space regardless. So I know I have been struggling with that a little bit, and I'll talk about it. All right. I'll start with a quick intro, and then I'm going to hand it off to Dr. Jamil to speak through the presentation today. So I'm excited to have Dr. Jamil on, and I'll talk a little bit about him. His today's guest is Dr. Jamil Sayegh. I hope I'm saying your name right.
Sayegh.
Sayegh. Okay, Sayegh. Dr. Jamil Sayegh is an international transformational coach, integrative naturopathic physician, energy healer, master NLP practitioner, and host of Transformation Starts Today podcast. By the way, you should check out his podcast. I've listened to a few episodes. It's awesome. And I'm also doing this morning thing of listening to podcasts while walking every morning. So it gives me a chance to catch up on podcasts and get my walking in every morning with the dogs. He's also an international best-selling author. He works with leaders, champions, and high performers from all walks of life, including world champion athletes, best-selling authors, entrepreneurs, business professionals, and more, to experience peace, happiness, and fulfillment and create an extraordinary life without regret. The goals of today's session is to discover how to create an unbeatable mindset, regardless of external circumstances, learn the most unique and different experience of the goal achievement process than you've ever seen, and overcome the two biggest fears that hold people back from success. Like I said, I've been talking to Dr. Jamil for a few months or maybe almost a year right now. So it was just, the timing was just right. And I'm excited to have him on today and grateful to have him on here. This disclaimer is not really applicable to this, so I'm just going to move on ahead. Few housekeeping rules. Everyone's on mute except the panelist. And if Dr. Jamil needs, I will promote people to come on as a panelist so you can speak. If you have any visual or audio issues, please type it in the chat box. And also, please locate the Q&A box. We use that for Q&A, like questions that you can type in. The questions in the chat box are kind of hard to track, so we recommend that you use the Q&A box. I will send a recording to this webinar within 24 hours. If you can add my name to your contact list, it would not go to the spam folder. A little bit about what I do. I have a company called Cherry Street Investments. It's a small business. I do a lot of investor education, hosting regular webinars on alternative investments, diversification of your investments, estate planning, and much more. We provide passive investment opportunities in real estate and other alternative assets, and also provide this concept of infinity banking, where you can set up your own bank account using high cash value life insurance policies. So if you're interested in any of those, please feel free to reach out to me. I also have a Facebook investor group you can join, called the Purely Passive Investor Group. We have over, I want to say, 1,000 members right now, almost close to it. If you miss any webinar, please check out the Cherry Street Investor Education YouTube channel and subscribe so you get notified as soon as this webinar is finished. Within 24 hours, it will be on the YouTube channel. So you can sign up bit.ly cherry-street. Some upcoming webinars which might be of interest to few of our high-income W-2 earners. Learn how to get tax write-offs on your W-2 income. Yes, I said W-2 with Eric Rice. Please join us next week at the same time for this webinar. It would be Thursday, 26th, I believe. We also have a webinar on navigating multifamily investments during market slowdown. I don't know how many of you are passively investing and have seen a slowdown in maybe your returns or any of those. So you can learn what's going on in the investment world there, in the interest environment, and how that's affecting multifamily investments right now. So you can invest more with a little more education around these investments. The third webinar we have, February 3rd week, is creative financing. A lot of people are sitting on the sidelines thinking they can't make any deals happen right now, which is not true. There is something we call creative financing, is to work with underlying financing that you already have on these deals. So if you want to learn how you can still buy deals and properties in this environment, join us for creative financing, how to snag deals in this market or any market really. And we have another couple more topics coming up on the economy. So I'm excited to host these every 2 Thursdays, although we have one next Thursday, which is one more than usual. A little bit about me. Most of you guys know me. I won't harp much on this. I've been working in the real estate world for the past 3 years after retiring myself from my tech job, and looking at mostly real estate, but also getting into more alternative investments right now. Some of our past deals that we're working on, a couple of them have done, we've sold them, but most of them we still hold through this downturn. Couple of open opportunities. I don't believe that there are no opportunities even in a bad market. So right now I have 2 funds open, which is an ATM fund and a car wash fund, which, as you can see, still provide amazing returns with monthly or quarterly cash flow. If you're interested in this, feel free to reach out to me, cherrystreet.us. I'm going to hand it off to Jamil. Hopefully that didn't take too long a time, Dr. Jamil. Again, grateful to have you on, and want to learn what you're going to share with us today, and hope to apply that to my everyday life as well. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you so much. Let me make sure I'm able to share my screen. Perfect. So before I do that, want to just first, this event wouldn't happen without you and your team and anyone else involved in putting this together. So thank you so much. I know you put on several events before this. You just talked about the ones that are coming up, and you provide a lot of value to everyone in attendance. And so normally when I can see everyone, I ask for like a round of applause, for the hosts, and I'm clapping for you. And I thank you so much for hosting me, and for everyone in attendance, thank you so much for being here. I believe that our time, our energy, our attention, it's the most valuable things we can give to another human being. And the fact that you're here tonight, I don't take that lightly. And so my intention, my goal is to make this as incredible of an experience as possible for you. And you play a part as well in this, which I'll get to in a moment. Normally, I ask everyone to be on Zoom so I can see you. Even though that's not the case, there's still a way to do this. And so when people are on a Zoom call and their video is off, what that does, at least subconsciously, it gives you the idea, at least, that I can check out. Nobody would notice. And the problem with that is the moment you check out, you potentially miss something that could have been so valuable for you. And when the video is on, you're less likely to do that because you know that you're seen. You know that people can see you. And so even though the video isn't here, I ask you to give yourself the gift of 100% presence. Give yourself the gift of removing distractions and really be here fully. Because if you do that, whatever magic is here for you to receive tonight, you'll get it. Okay? And this applies to people on the recording too. You get so much more from this if you're listening to it. Set aside time, really be with it, take notes. Don't watch like 5 minutes here and there and then get distracted and go back and forth. you miss out so much. And so
we all live in a TikTok world now, our attention span is like, it's shot completely.
And so I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to bring it to full screen, and just please confirm with me that you see this and it's not like cut off or anything.
It's perfect.
Perfect. All right. And yeah, the webinar chat, Q&A, it's all there. And just to reiterate, like Kavitha said earlier, at various points, especially toward the end, when we have Q&A and stuff, if you have a question, you want to raise your hand and she can spotlight you or whatever it is, make you a panelist, and then we'll be able to interact, which would be great. All right. So a little bit about me, not to reiterate the bio. Like Kavitha said, I'm Dr. Jamil Sayegh. Everything that I do is centered around helping leaders, champions, and high performers experience more happiness, peace, and fulfillment as they create an extraordinary life without regret. I've been blessed to work for years now with people around the world from various industries, many in the real estate space, whether they be investors, brokers, agents, loan officers. And what it looks like is I spend time with you, we dive deep in conversation, and I help you see yourself and your world differently. And when you see yourself and your world differently, you start showing up as a more powerful version of you, which is going to be such a foundational part of today's presentation that we're going to go through. And when you do that, you step into what I call the most powerful, capable, competent version of you, which is the real you. And when you do that, the problems, the challenges, the things that you thought were insurmountable, holding you back, this is going to take years to fix. They melt away so much faster than you thought. And the goals and dreams become realized so much faster than you thought were possible. And so tonight, I'm going to share with you what I would think of as strategies, ways of being, things that you can practically apply, things that I share with my coaching clients to help you identify, how can I make my mindset unbeatable, unstoppable? What is that missing secret sauce, to my success? And when I think about the vehicles that I use to share, because it's relevant to the presentation, there's life coaching, business coaching, relationship coaching. I've spent 18 years now diving into every facet of human beings that I could. I've spent 15 years now studying all the different world religions, neurolinguistic programming, mental and emotional release work, energy healing. It's all about what works. It's all about what gets the result. And I've seen what works for people and I've seen what doesn't work for people with net worth of zero and negative, and people with hundreds of millions of dollars. And you'd be surprised that they often have the exact same problem. And so much of that we're going to discuss tonight. And so to get the most from today, first of all, take notes, ideally with pen and paper. There is evidence and studies to show that you get more retention when you write it out than when you type it. There's some type of connection, that brain to hand, and as you're writing it out, it just works better. Even better, review your notes within 48 hours. Don't let it just stack up in a pile somewhere and then you don't look at it ever again. There's a joking term people use, they call it shelf help. You buy the books, you go to the seminars, you get the notepad, whatever it is, and you put it on your bookcase and just sits there and it looks nice, but you don't do it. Yeah.
Guilty.
I've been there. And so from that space, we want to avoid that. So make a committed effort, make a note, put it somewhere to review your notes. And then finally, a way to take it a step further, teach it to someone that you really care about. Teach it to a spouse, teach it to a business partner, teach it to a friend, teach it to your kid if you have one. Whoever it is, when you're learning something with the intention of teaching it, you retain it more. Number 2 is remain open-minded. You're going to hear and see things today that some of it you've been exposed to before, and some of it you haven't, and that's okay. You take what's useful to you. But what I encourage you not to do is fall into the trap that so many really smart people fall into, which is, I already know that, or I've seen that before. Because the moment you fall into, I already know that, and I've seen that before, you check out. And I promise you that there's a difference between knowing something and living it. You might understand it, you might have heard it, but unless your life is the epitome of it, unless you are a living example of it, you probably could learn it better. And from that space, allow yourself to be, there's an expression in Zen Buddhism, like have a beginner's mind. Come from that space of, I'm going to put to the side whatever I know, and I'm going to take notes like a crazy person, and I'm going to really be here, and I'm going to see what gold there is for me tonight. And number 3 is play all out. Give 100% of you to the experience. Be here fully. Like I said, remove distractions. This is an opportunity now. Put your phone on do not disturb. Put it on airplane mode. Turn the email off so it's not binging every 5 seconds. Whatever it is that you can do to make yourself more present, it'll help you get so much more out of this. Ask any questions during the Q&A period. If anything comes up in the middle or during the presentation, write it down, put it in the Q&A feature. Like, like Kavitha mentioned, remember that you're going to learn the most when you're having fun. The more you put into this, the more you're going to get out of it. One thing I'd like you to be with is the next 60 to 90 minutes or so can be the most transformational time of your life if you're open to it. I said earlier, my intention is to create as much value as possible for you, but there's a part that you play as well. How present are you going to be? And the example I want to share with you to kind of hit the point home. Imagine being on a plane and you board the plane and you're sitting there and you're on the tarmac and you're waiting for it to go. And you got the headphones in, people are talking to you, and then the plane is about to take off. And the captain comes through the intercom and says, hey, please direct your attention to the flight attendants, and they're going to show you the safety stuff. And what do you say? Well, you say, I already know that. I've been on a plane before. So you tune out. And there they are showing you how to use a seatbelt, and they're doing all the good stuff, and you tune out. And so you tune into your screen in front of you or the screen in your hand, whether it's a phone or a computer or whatever. You're talking to a person, reading a book. You're doing everything other than what they're asking you to do because you say, I already know that. Now, what would happen if halfway through the flight, there was a good amount of turbulence, and then the flight attendant came out and said, ladies and gentlemen, I need your attention. We're going to crash. And if you pay attention to what I'm about to say in the next 30 seconds, you might survive. Would you listen differently? Would that TV show or the book or the person talking to you, would it be as important? And the answer is no. And if I said why, you'd give me some variation of, well, my life's on the line. What could be more important than that? And my invitation to you is that tonight your life is on the line because your future is created by what you do right now. Your future is created by this present moment. So there's something, you're here tonight for a reason, not an accident. There's something you're going to get tonight. It could be one thing, it could be 100 things, but there's something you're going to get tonight that can change the way you live your life going forward. And if you're listening like that person in the beginning of the flight, it's going to go right over your head. And then you wasted your time being here. But if you're truly present, it's incredible what can shift in your world. So be here now, give yourself the gift fully, and listen like you've never listened before. And so my promise to you, normally when I do this again, I can see people. So disregard the show of hands, but think about it in your own world. How many of you have attended a goal setting workshop or set goals in your life?
You can still use the raise hand feature if you want to show of hands. Yep.
Beautiful. Yeah. So if people would like to do that, that'd be great. And also, but think about it by show of hands, even if you're just doing it for yourself, participate in your mind, raise your hand. How many of you have attended a goal setting workshop or set goals in your life? And, it'd be either all of you or half of you or a fair amount of you. So my PowerPoint's giving me the little spin wheel of death. But I still have I have it on my phone too. So how many of you notice that your goals don't always come true? And something to be with. It's interesting. I don't know why I'm getting this circle. Give me 1 second. This will be just easier to do if I just exit out. And now it's just completely gone. Can you still hear me, Kavitha?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. I just can't see the presentation anymore.
Yeah, I stopped sharing it. And then now, for some reason, the whole screen is just frozen.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, just give me a moment. That's never happened before. My apologies, but we'll get that solved as soon as I can. And so, while it's loading, something to just be with is how many of you have attended a goal setting workshop in the past, and how many of you notice that your goals don't always come true? And then from that space, we wonder, why is it that our goals don't always come true? And while this situation is getting resolved, you can put it into the chat or you can put it into the Q&A, either way. Why do you think that your goals don't always come true? You can give a one-word answer, you can give a quick sentence, but they'd be very interested to see. Let me see if I can figure this out. Here we go. Okay. There we go. Okay. I was finally able to force quit that PowerPoint that was acting up. Beautiful. And thank you everyone for putting stuff into the chat. I love the participation. All right. Here we go. And Kavitha, while I'm pulling this up, can you just read to me some of the answers that came through?
Sure, of course. Not disciplined enough to track goals regularly. lack of focus. I typed that. I think I have a serious lack of focus. We set goals that seem difficult to reach. I think I agree with that sometimes. Lack of follow through, because we don't write down our goals. Goals don't come to fruition because as people, we're not writing down our goals. I think he kind of reiterated, or two people said the same thing.
Yeah.
But we don't spend enough time working on it, not in having enough focus and determination, because complacency sets in after some time. For me, I typically slip out of habit.
Perfect. Thank you for reading them, and thank you everyone for the participation and putting them in. Beautiful. And so this is where tonight will be great, because so many of these answers, notice that they're all possible answers. They're all true. And what I'm going to share with you tonight is what I believe it's one level deeper than each of these. And think of it from a medical perspective. There's symptoms, and then there's the root cause. The symptom is what's showing up because of the root cause. But if you ignore the root cause and just deal with the symptom, you feel better for a period of time and then it comes back. But if you deal with the root cause, the problem goes away. So much of what was written here, while true in so many people's experiences, are symptoms. And so that'll make more sense as we go forward. And so today we're going to find out why people's goals don't come true. So here's my promise to each of you. This will be the most unique and different experience of the goal achievement process that you've ever seen. Today, we're going to discuss the most powerful way to achieve everything you want in life. And the cool thing, it has very little to do with what you're doing. So notice a lot of what was in the chat has to do with doing, whether it be journaling or follow through or whatever it was. So let's begin with a few foundational questions. First, what is a goal? For me, a goal is something you'd like to create and experience in the world. Obviously, different people can have different definitions, but just for tonight, as a working definition, let's use this. A goal is something I'd like to create and experience in the world. Now, why do we have goals? And I believe we have a goal to evolve into the best version of ourselves. You're kind of spiraling up. You want to step into a higher level of who you could be. You want to play a bigger game. And then think of your own life and think of, well, what do I want? What would be amazingly wonderful? What would I love in my business? Maybe you're wanting to start a new business. You wanting to grow the business you already have. Maybe you don't have a business and you want to have a business. Maybe you want to raise your finances. Do you have a certain number in mind that lands for you? Maybe you've got health goals, fitness goals. You want to have more energy, be more vital. You want to put muscle on, lose weight, whatever it is. Relationship goals, if you're married, if you want to get into a relationship with your kids, business partners, whatever it is, maybe you have goals there as well. And then contribution, impact, legacy, a difference that you want to make. And happiness and fulfillment. So what is it that you want? And think of it like a rhetorical question. Just imagine your life and imagine, this is what I'm going after. Now, why do you want that? So for me, I look at it as there's two reasons why we have goals. Actually, no, that's coming in a moment. So think, why do you want all these different things that I listed that you were thinking of in your mind? What would it do for your life? You might be thinking, it'll let me do this. It'll give me the ability to have that. It'll help my family in these ways. It'll let me contribute in these ways, whatever it might be. What would allow you to experience? How would other people benefit? Questions like these emotionalize your goals, and they dramatically increase the likelihood that you'll persevere and succeed. So on the surface, it's like, all right, this is what I want. This is why I want it. This is what it will do for me, how other people will benefit. All those questions are great. And these are the questions that commonly show up in like a goal setting type of how do I accomplish what I want type of experience. And now I wanted to start with that. So we had the foundation and then we go deeper. So what is it really all about? We really want our goals to come true because we're chasing a feeling, how we believe we'll feel once we have achieved our goal. And there's a second reason, who we believe we will become as a result of the process of achieving our goal. So I'll give you an example. If I were to say, how many of you would really love if I gave you $1 billion? And if if I could see everybody by a show of hands, most people would probably raise their hands. Yeah, if you're offering it, I'll take it. And it's like, all right, and why? Are you excited about it? Yeah, it'd be great. Cool. So let me just tell you, I'm going to give you $1 billion and you can't spend it and you can't do anything with it. You have it though. You're a billionaire. Are you really stoked and excited and happy? If you can't invest it, you can't spend it. Usually not, because you didn't want a billion pieces of paper and you didn't want a billion, like, ones and zeros on your computer. You wanted what you thought the money would get you. But even if you said, well, yeah, I would have bought this thing with the money. Okay, but why did you want that? Because you thought you'd feel a certain way once you had it. That's all we're ever going after. We're going after a feeling, and we think what we do with the money, what we get with the money, will give it to us. And the second is we have a goal because who we believe will become as a result of the process of achieving our goal. But here's the secret. States of being and emotional states are all available to you right now. So think about it like this. I often tell people, do you want the evidence and the proof that more money isn't going to make you happy? And they'll say, okay. And I'll say, there are millionaires and billionaires who have everything that you think you need to be happy, and they're not. There's some of them that are. There's a 70 or 80% of the planet lives on less than $2.50 a day. Some of those people are really miserable. Some of those people are really happy. There's millionaires and billionaires, some of which are really happy, and some of which are really miserable, some of which who commit suicide because they feel like it's a void, even though they've got more money than like 98% of the world combined. And so from that headspace, we realize it can't be the stuff that's going to make me happy. It can't be the plane or the island or a certain amount of doors or whatever it is, because then if it was that, all the people that have that would be happy. And the fact that they're not tells you it's got to be something else. And so I have here on the bottom, in terms of the secret, all states of being, all emotional states are available to you right now. And that means that thing you're going after, what if you start it from that point instead of thinking you have to get to it? And I'm going to get to that in a little bit. So let's move forward. So I call this the human experience in 3 steps. To me, this process I'm about to share with you is so simple, and it's so simple no one thinks about it. It's so simple, and yet this describes everything you've ever experienced, everything you experience now, and everything you will experience. And so step 1 is what I call life happens. Now, life happens is completely neutral. Life happens is whatever your situation is, whatever your circumstances are. There's a certain amount of money or not in the bank. There's a certain situation arising in your relationship. Your weight is a certain number. You got an eviction notice. Whatever it is, you're getting sued. Like, life happens. Now, at the first level, it's all completely neutral. Then we have the second level, which is we interpret it, which means we make it mean something. A situation happens, neutral, internally, and this happens usually subconsciously, unconsciously, where you're not typically thinking about this consciously. It's this happened, and what does that mean to me? How is that going to impact me? And then step 3, we experience our interpretation. So life happens, I interpret it, I experience my interpretation. Most people, rather than have a process like this, their process has 2 steps. And they think life happens and I experience life the way it is. But that puts you into a victim mentality. A victim lives life at effect. There's cause and there's effect. The victim says life is the cause and I am at effect to it, which means that the situation happened and I'm angry about it or sad about it, but I can't help it. It's because that situation happened. But that only would be true if everyone felt the same way about the situation. Because if that situation made you angry, then it made everybody angry because it's what it does. But there is no situation that makes everybody angry. There is no one situation that makes anyone feel anything. Everyone responds to things differently. So your emotional state is not determined by what happens outside of you, ever. No person or no situation ever makes you feel anything. That's just a story that we make up in our head. And so when we look at it like this, life happens. So-and-so said something to me. They did something to me. The economy crashed. This happened, that happened. I interpret it. I experience my interpretation. Now, when I don't like my interpretation, and the way that I know that is because I'm starting to feel frustrated, angry, scared, fearful, insert the emotion that you don't want to feel. Rather than point to the situation, point to you and say, how did I create this feeling? What am I thinking and believing about this situation that's making me feel what I'm feeling? Because that's where your power is. this is when you look at a framework like this, to me, this is the best news ever, because it's telling you that how do you have an unbeatable mindset? Because nothing outside of you determines how you feel. Nothing outside of you determines how you think. All of that comes from you. And so when you can slow it down, and one example I'd love to share here would be, I'm in New York and it is actually raining right now. If I were to say to all of you, I'm really angry, I'm upset, I'm frustrated, and you say, why? And I say, it's raining outside. And you go, and? It's not supposed to be. It's a weird statement because it's like, well, it is. Like, who am I to say it's not supposed to be raining? But in this moment, I'm telling you I'm angry because it's raining. But now somebody up the street has a big giddy smile on their face and you say, you look happy. And they go, I am. And you go, why? And they go, it's raining outside. And then you say, tell me about it. And they go, the most precious resource on the planet is falling from the sky. The plants are getting watered. The car's getting washed for free. This is amazing. And I'm saying, my plans are going to be canceled. I was going to go for a hike. Now I can't do it. The day is shot. What a waste of a day. Two completely different experiences. And me and this other guy in this example are going to both tell you the rain caused it. Rain can't do that. Water falling from the sky doesn't have that power. But neither does you got a flat tire. A piece of deflated rubber doesn't have that power. A bank account doesn't have that power. You do with your interpretation. So ask yourself going forward, anytime I'm feeling what I don't want to be feeling, how am I creating this via my interpretation? And then what other interpretation can I come up with? A really great question is, would anyone else in the world possibly, or could anyone else in the world possibly see this situation in a positive way? And if they could, how would they maybe see it? And the moment you even give that question a consideration, you start to think of other ways to interpret the situation, and you shift out of the experience you were having. And maybe instead of anger and frustration, now you're grounded in curiosity. It feels different. And so one more story to share before we move forward. For any of you who have children, this will really land for you. And if you don't, either way, it still lands. You can just put yourself in the headspace of having a child. So there you are sleeping, and it's 3 a.m, and your child's 6 years old, and your child runs in, mommy, daddy, there's a monster in my room. And you're like, oh shit, it was like the 5th time this week. And you're like, oh, go back. Go back to sleep isn't going to work. You tried that already. You know that the kid's going to come running back anyway. So the kid grabs your hand and is pulling you out of bed towards their bedroom. And you're half asleep and you're stumbling into the room. And then the door opens and they go, look. And you kind of like rubbing your eye and you look and there's this giant shadow creature. And you're like, Jesus. And you get frightened. And for a moment, there's a monster in your kid's room. Like, honey, pack the car. We got to go. But in that moment, the logical mind kicks in at some point and you go, hold on. What the hell is that? I know that's not a monster. Like, and you look around and you go, oh. And you see there's a teddy bear in front of a nightlight. And the way that the teddy bear and the nightlight are near each other is casting this 12-foot shadow on the wall that looks really intimidating. Now, in that moment, there's no monster, but your child doesn't. Now, if you say, honey, there's no monster, go back to bed, everything's great. Not going to work. Your kid's going to run right back into your room because your kid doesn't make the connection yet. But when you can bring your kid over to the teddy bear and look, and you grab the bear's hand and you move it, and the monster starts waving, and the kid starts laughing a little bit, and you go, it was Mr. Bear the whole time. And then you try it, and then the kid's moving it, and the monster's waving, and you laugh it off, and all of a sudden, the kid goes to bed easily, effortlessly, a smile on their face. Now, what changed? What changed is you saw through the illusion. Life happened. There's a shadow on the wall. One interpretation is, it's a monster, it's going to eat me. Now, if that's your interpretation, any behavior that follows that's going to be you're scared and frightened, that's normal behavior, given the interpretation. Anyone would do that if they actually thought there was a monster. But there really wasn't. And once the kids saw that there really wasn't, the question of, well, what do we do about the monster, completely disappears. It's not relevant anymore. In the same way that if it's raining and I think I'm angry because of the rain, The moment I realize, well, no, I'm angry because of this interpretation, then the question of, well, what do I do about the rain? It doesn't apply anymore. I can still have a great day despite the fact that it's raining. You are the greatest solution and the greatest problem you'll ever have. We create our own problems. There are situations, and then we give meaning to it, and that becomes, in our mind, a problem. And so how are you going to interpret your life experience? That's what's going to create everything that you experience going forward. So remember where feelings come from. The feeling you're after, it doesn't come from the result. It comes from your thinking, and it means you're always just one thought away from feeling anything that you want. It's an interesting thing, because when we think that emotions come from a result, it's almost as if we're saying that there I am walking outside. I used to be a big video game guy back in the day, and like you play like a Mario game or something. There you are walking around, and there's a little star or a little mushroom or a little something, and you bang into it, and you get like a little superpower. You get a power up for a few seconds. It's almost like people live like that. They're walking around and they're feeling sad or depressed or frustrated, and they're waiting to like bump into happiness so they can experience it for a bit. But that isn't how it works. All emotions are available to you, and you're one thought away. And think about how beautiful that could be, that it's like you're telling me that I don't need all that money to be happy. You're telling me that I don't need all the material possessions to be happy. No, you can have all the stuff that you want, have as much money, have as many doors, have as many whatever as you want, but come from a space of sufficiency rather than coming from a space of deficiency. All thoughts are available to you in this moment. This moment right now is as good as it gets in regards to your ability to think thoughts. So if I told you right now, you will never have more opportunity for happiness than you do in this moment. For many people, it could be an uncomfortable thought, because if they're not happy in this moment, they could go, well, wait, you're telling me like this is as good as it gets? Yes, but your interpretation of it might be different than what I mean. This is as good as it gets because in this moment, you have the ability to think whatever you want. You have the ability to interpret your thinking however you want. And whatever you choose to make it mean is real for you. We have 8 billion people on the planet. You have 8 billion different realities. No one sees life the exact same way. And so when you look at a crime scene and there's 30 people that saw it, you get 30 eyewitness testimonials, you get 30 different stories. You don't get people, everyone agreed that's what happened. Everyone saw it from a different perspective, different angle, and it changes the whole thing. Just like if you have a child in that story and the monster's there, not from your perspective, but from the other person's, it's completely real. So the challenge you tell yourself is when I have a certain thing, or when X or Y happens, then I'll finally be happy, successful enough. And the challenge there is you've made the good feelings conditional. You've created rules for yourself that I'll only allow myself to feel successful when I accumulate a certain amount. I remember years ago watching this it was a seminar, and this guy was worth like $300-400 million. And the guy on stage said, "Are you a successful man?" And he said, "No." And everyone in the audience looked at him like, the hell's he talking about? And the guy goes, well, why is that? And he goes, well, because until I'm a billionaire, I'm not successful. And then there was a homeless guy who somebody gave a ticket to, who was in the audience. And the guy on stage said, "Sir, are you successful?" And the guy had a big smile on his face. He goes, "Of course." And the guy goes, "Why is that?" And he goes, "Every day above ground is a good day." And so notice these are two very different interpretations. And again, I have a couple of things coming up in a few slides that'll really sink it home. But where am I making my happiness, my success, my gratitude, my whatever conditional? Where are you making it hard to feel what you want to feel now? Because just like that guy, I'm successful. I woke up today. I'm alive. From his perspective, what's better than that? But from this other guy's perspective, he's putting some artificial like limit, some ceiling on until I cross that mark, I'm not successful. And it's not like it's really serving him because, oh, it's a goal and he's reaching for it. That might be true, but in his own words, he doesn't see himself as successful. And if you saw the guy when he said it, he was also kind of depressed and miserable too, despite having all the money and all the stuff. So what rules am I creating? I can't feel what I want to feel because, and then do those rules serve you? And if they don't, how about you rewrite them? Because you're the one who created them in the first place. And when you do make it conditional, All this does is it makes your emotions conditional on the external circumstances. You give your power away. And because this is how most people operate, you think this is just how it is. You see everyone around you saying, oh yeah, think about it like this. Most people feel like they need a reason in order to feel really happy. And yet they don't think they need a reason to feel sad. They don't think they need a reason to feel miserable. You say to somebody, how's your day going? And if they go, it's going spectacular, you're like, oh, curious, like, why? But if they say, it's okay, you're like, yeah, I understand, as if it's like, that's normal. You get to choose how you want to show up in the world, how you want to be. So distinction, are you working towards a goal to get happy, or are you working towards a goal happily? This is something I share with clients that I've been alluding to that I want to really tease out right here. If you're working toward a goal to get happy, think of it like an alphabet, A to Z. If A is where I'm at and Z is where I want to be, then the question becomes, when I'm at A and I start working, the whole time I'm thinking, I'm not there yet, I'm not there yet, I'm not there yet. Now, because I'm thinking I'm not there yet, because I've made it black and white, it's binary. I'm either I'm there or I'm not. And if that's your mindset, I'll be happy when, and the whole time until I get there, I'm not there. So by my own definition, I can't be happy. I can't be successful until I arrive. The problem with that is you get discouraged. Courage is Latin for cur. Cur is Latin rather for courage, the root of it. Cur means heart. When you're discouraged, you're disheartened. When you're disheartened, you're coming from that space of what's the point? And so maybe you start at A, I'm not there yet, I'm not there yet, I'm not there yet. Maybe you get to K, you get to P, you get to Q. But at some point, like Steve Jobs talks about, if you don't love what you're doing, if you're not deeply passionate about it, if you're not enjoying the process, you're going to quit at some point. And it's because you're sane. Like, why would somebody keep doing something if they were miserable? Why would somebody keep doing something if they hated it? So are you working towards a goal to get happy? Or the opposite, are you working towards a goal happily? And for me, working towards the goal happily is about falling in love with the process. So I'm at A, Z is where I want to end up ultimately, but then I get B, C, D, and at D, I'm celebrating the fact that I'm not at A anymore. At D, I'm looking back and I'm going, wow, look how far I've come. Look at the last 6 months, look at the last year. The business is pretty different. I've made more money. I've grown as an owner. I've done this. I've done that. Look at my relationship. We're communicating so much better. Hey, I want to lose 50 pounds. I'm down 11. Well, I'm not at 50, but I'm 11 pounds less than I was before. If you're working towards a goal happily, with joy in your heart, with gratitude and appreciation in your heart, you're more likely to stick with it. And you're going to enjoy the process along the way. Because when you think, I love using the Wizard of Oz as a metaphor for this, actually. So a lot of people have seen the movie. If you haven't, it's still going to be a really simple metaphor. Imagine you're on the yellow brick road and it's this one road that goes seemingly forever. And it goes all the way to Oz. And just think of it like this giant city all the way at the end. And you're at the beginning and you think, I'm working towards a goal to get happy. So the perspective is, my goal is to get happy. So I might as well sprint. I might as well get down this yellow brick road as fast as possible, because all that matters is I get to Oz, if you come from this perspective. So there you are sprinting down the road, and this road is metaphorically your life. And you're sprinting down the road and you see all these people and you're passing people and you're running with people. And then every now and then you get a little tired and you stop and you're breathing heavy, you're taking a 30-second, you're taking a 1 minute breather. And then you notice the first time there's just some guy. And he's standing there looking at the floor in the corner side of the road. And you walk over because you think it's kind of strange. And you go, excuse me, sir, are you okay? And he goes, aren't they beautiful? And you go, what are you talking about? And he goes, look. And you look down and there's all these little flowers and they're like a beautiful color. You've never seen it before. You're like, wow, that's amazing. And then you say, are these like only here? And the guy goes, no, these have been along the sides of the road the entire time. And then you sit there and you go, oh, never noticed it. And he goes, would you like to sit and watch them with me? And you're like, I don't have time for that, crazy old guy. And you go, bye. And you start running and you're running and you're running and you go further down the road. And then you stop because you get tired again. You see somebody else. And now there's some lady and she's looking up at a tree. And you walk up to her and you're like, what are you looking at? And she's like, isn't it beautiful? And you're like, what? And she goes, listen. And there's all these birds and they're like singing a song. And she's like, it's like a concert from nature right there. And in that moment, you're like, yeah, it's nice. Are these like, is this like a special tree? She's like, no, they've been singing the whole time. And then you're like, all right. And she's like, you want to sit and listen? You're like, no, I don't have time for that. And you start running and you get all the way to the end of the road and you finally get to the door and you're like, I made it. And you knock on the door. And for those of you who saw the movie, it's like, who rang that bell? The guy opens the door and he looks at you and he goes, oh, it's you. And he opens the door and he goes, before you come in, how was your life? And you look at him kind of confused and you say, what do you mean? And he goes, well, this is the end. Like, this is death, like you made it. And you go, no, but I thought this is where I was trying to get to. And he's like, no. Like, and then you realize through the conversation that the guy with the flower and the lady with the birds and anyone else that you ran into along the way who is slowing down, as the expression goes, to smell the roses, that was slowing down to savor the moment. They weren't in a rush because they know they're going to get where they're going. And from that space, they're enjoying the process along the way. Now, notice if you beg that guy at the door, oh my God, I misunderstood this thing called life. Could you please give me another shot? And let's say he goes, you know what? I like you. I'll grant you that wish. And he snaps his finger and all of a sudden you're back at the beginning of the road. Would you travel the road differently? I promise you would. You'd camp out on the side. You'd look at the stars. You would take in all the moments. You'd meet people. You'd do all the things. Then next time you get to that guy at the end, now you got stories to tell because now you work towards the goal happily instead of working toward a goal to get happy, not realizing that when you get to Z, that's the end. Enjoy the process of getting to your goal because the majority of your life is going to be that process. The majority of your life is not going to be the goal itself. That's just going to be a little blip. As much as you think you want it, go for it, but enjoy your process along the way. So there are two ways to create the future in my experience. We can create the future from the past, or we can create the future from the future. Here is what most people do. Most people create the future from the past. They say, here's who I've been up until this moment. And because this is who I've been, and this is who other people told me I am, this is what my strengths and weaknesses are, this is what I inherited genetically, my family is like this is what people told me I'm good and bad at, etc. I take that and I look into the future, I project it out, and I say, well, because that's how it's been, it's probably going to be how it keeps being. And so from that space, we live into this as a self-fulfilling prophecy. And by being the same version that I was yesterday, tomorrow's not going to be that different. I have people that I've met over the years, some of them family, who I might not see them for 6 months, 8 months, a year. Hey, it's been so long. Like, what have you been up to? What's different in your life? Like, how are you doing? And they give me this unenthusiastic, same shit, different day. Now, I want you to think about that. How could you possibly have same shit, different day in a world of infinite possibility? Unless you were creating the future from the past. If the input stays the same, the output will always stay the same. Your tomorrows won't be that different from your yesterdays if you keep acting the same way. You keep speaking to people the same way. You keep staying in a comfort zone and never expanding beyond what you're comfortable with. Your life's not going to get that exciting for you. Now, what's the alternative? The alternative is create the future from the future. And what that means is either whether you're journaling it, whether you're closing your eyes and just writing it down and visualizing it from the space of what kind of person do I want to be? And visualize a month, a year, 5 years, 10 years from now. Just think of like this ideal version of you and see how he or she acts. See how you treat people. See how you talk to yourself, especially during moments of challenge. See how you handle adversity. When an opportunity doesn't go the way you wanted it to. See how you speak to people when you're angry with them, but you were able to shift it and still come from a space of love. And when you see all the ways future you would treat other people, treat himself, herself, talk to people, actions you would take despite fear, all these things, you know the recipe. It's the equivalent of if we're all sitting here and a chef is baking something or cooking something, and from that space, we taste it and we go, this is incredible. The best thing I've ever tasted. I want to make this. Can you teach us how to do it? And the chef goes, sure. Here's the recipe. And I even put little notes in the margins of specifically what I was doing, what I was thinking when I did it, how much I put, all of it. If you followed those to the T, you'd create something similar. Maybe not exactly the same, but it'd be close enough that it's recognizable. Now, how'd you do that? Because you had the recipe. You knew the steps to follow. You knew how to do it. But in this future visual, when you just saw future you, let's say right now, maybe you don't identify yourself as somebody who's very courageous. And then you close your eyes and you see this version of you doing all these courageous things. You see the way you'd metaphorically jump into the fire. You see how you'd put yourself in situations that the old you would be uncomfortable with. You see how you would take leadership on and all these other things that you would do. And then if I were to ask you, okay, and how does that version of you see it? And why did he or she take that on? And you go, oh, for this reason, for this reason. And when you open your eyes, recognize that what you just showed me is you know the recipe. It exists in you already, and you're just not doing it. You're just choosing not to do it because you think that that's not you. In the same way that you think you're angry because it's raining. It doesn't work that way. If you believe that this is me right now, and if you look at my hand right here, it's like the small version of me. And this is this big me. And this is future me. I'm so excited to be this version of me. And I think I'm going to keep acting like this small me. And one day I'm going to wake up and I'm just going to be this version of me, the big one. This is what's going to happen. Track my hands here with your eyes. As time goes, you never catch up because that's not how it works. And the reason is because there is no future and there is no past. The future only exists in your imagination, and the past only exists in your memory. The only thing that's real is this present moment. That visualization that if you followed along with me, that visualization you just did of future you and how he or she would behave and all these things, when did you do that? You did it now. This is the only time that you have. And so if anyone has seen Back to the Future, as an example, there's 3 movies of it, but the first one, Marty, the main character, he goes back in time to his parents' high school reunion, or high school, not reunion, but they were in high school. And he messes some things up and unintentionally. And now his parents aren't going to get together. And when he gets away from everybody, he has a photo in his pocket from his present day. And he pulls the photo out and it's his family, his parents, he and his sister. He and his sister disappear from the photo because whatever he just changed in the past influenced the future. But think about this, that quote unquote future you are living in their past right now. So whatever you do now determines whether or not that version of you continues to exist or not. So in your head, if you could imagine, there's all these possible futures for you, depending on what you decide to do and not do. And there's a handful of them that would be like hell on earth. They'd be horrible. You would do everything to avoid them. Then there's a handful that are like, those are okay. And then there's a few that you're like, those would be incredible. Now, those are probably the ones that you visualized. And so from that space, you go, that's the one I want. Okay. Well, there's a certain path that version of you took to get to that point. And your job in the present moment is to take those actions now and to act as if the future you was already here. And the secret, because they exist in you right now because you already know how they would act. You just gave me the recipe. So from that space, you say, how would future me, how would ideal me, give it a nickname, whatever you want to do, how would this version of me handle this situation? The way I like to think about it, Arnold Schwarzenegger tells this story that early in his career, he was in bodybuilding, he hadn't won any big competitions yet, and he was working to compete for Mr. Austria. But in his mind, his identification was, I'm already Mr. Olympia. So there he was in the gym. All the bodybuilders are there. It's been 4 hours. They're working out and they all start leaving. And one guy notices Arnold is still there. And he goes, hey, Arnold, come on, we're all leaving. And Arnold goes, no, Mr. Olympia works out 6 hours. Now, what is he doing there? In his mind, he's already identified the future he wants. I am Mr. Olympia. And then he steps into it now and he's asking himself, how does Mr. Olympia work out that's different from the people who lost? How does Mr. Olympia eat? How does Mr. Olympia speak to people? How does Mr. Olympia carry himself? How does Mr. Olympia go to, whatever else, whatever else would be involved in that process? And then you start acting that way now. So whether you've got no doors and you just started, or you've got 10,000 doors, or you've got 100,000, or whatever your goal is, how would that version of you conduct himself or herself? Well, how would you think? It's a whole different animal. And so from that space, ask yourself, how can I start creating my future from the future by changing the input you automatically change the output. It has to change in the same way that if you walked up to a mirror and you frowned, I don't care how much you mentally beg for it to happen, your reflection will never smile. The only way to make your reflection smile is you got to smile first. But the moment you smile first, your reflection has to smile back, unless you're in one of those weird horror movies. And so from that space, your reflection will always smile back, but you got to start it. In that same way, your future is created by what you decide to do right now. You got to go first. But the moment you start walking down that path, a lot of these other paths, the possible futures that you didn't want as much, they start to disappear because you're not picking them. And you get closer and closer to picking the one you want, and you start seeing the abundance, the wealth, the riches, the results, the fruits of your labor start showing up. So the next part of this is the idea of being versus doing. So the question, this goes with the Arnold example, who would I need to be today to move this vision forward? I'm going to put a couple questions up and then I'm going to speak to them. What qualities and characteristics must I embody? What would the best version of me do in this moment? And remember, doing follows being. Actions are the effect, being is the cause. So think about this. In every role that you play, whether you're a business owner, CEO, leader, friend, son, daughter, mother, father, whatever, husband, wife, whatever you are, think of it as a role that you play. So the question becomes, in this example, let's say I have a goal in a business or in a relationship or in whatever. I see myself as that goal, that future me, or I see the relationship. It's passionate, it's thriving, there's vitality, there's energy. We really care about each other, whatever is not present now that I want. And then I say, well, who would I need to be today to begin having that kind of relationship? So it might be, I need to be more understanding. I need to be more compassionate. I need to be more loving. So the qualities and characteristics, what would that best version of me do? So this perspective that being is primary and doing is secondary, in the same way that when you plant a seed, if I plant an apple seed, what kind of tree grows? And notice that an apple tree grows. Now, how often do I get a watermelon tree instead of an apple tree from an apple seed? The answer is never, because it doesn't work that way. One type of seed bears one type of tree, which bears one type of fruit. So if I want a mango, I don't plant an apple seed. But in that same way, if I plant the seed of, let's say, love and respect, what kind of doing stems from that? What kind of fruit stems from that? Loving and respectful things. If I plant enthusiasm and excitement as seeds of my business, what kind of actions stem from that? Enthusiastic and excited actions. It sounds really simple, and the good news is it is. But I said earlier at the beginning, the number one aspect that needs to shift, and it's got little to do with what you do, it's who you're being. Just like in the Arnold example, once he said, no, I am Mr. Olympia. It doesn't matter that no one else knows that yet. It doesn't matter that I technically don't have the title. I've already got it. It's just a matter of time before everybody else sees it. That way of being led to the right doing. In this case, no, I'm working out longer than everybody else. I'm going to sleep. I'm going to do all the things I got to do. But it's the exact same thing in business. There's a picture I saw years ago. It's Jeff Bezos in the beginning of the Amazon era. And it's a picture of him. Some of you might have seen it. He's got like the giant old school computer monitor. He's got a little poster on the wall that says Amazon. It's written in like paint or something. And there's piles of paper everywhere. And I don't know if he's in a garage or a small office, but wherever he is, you look at that. And that was, I believe Amazon wasn't profitable for, I think, somewhere between like 8 and 10 years, maybe 15 years. Don't quote me. It's somewhere in that range. How could you build a business, not be profitable and not give up? Because of who you're being. If who I'm being is this is going to work. If who I'm being is I will do everything that it takes. If that's the seed that I plant, the action, the doing that comes from that just flows. It makes sense that if I go, oh, this is going to work, the action is not going to be give up. Give up is going to stem from the seed of maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe my friend was right. Maybe my doubters are right. The moment you plant that seed, that's when your interpretation starts to grow and mess with you. And now you're not doing what it takes to create the life that you want. And so rather than just having a to-do list, I'd recommend you create a to-be list, review it daily, and live from it. And what I mean by that is if you create a to-do list, these are just all the tasks that you have. And that's still important. Without action, nothing's going to change for you. But at the end of the day, why do you take the actions that you take? And why do other people not take action? So it's like, if I take two people in your industry, and you're more successful than they are, by far, let's say, why? Is it really just because they don't know the actions to take? Is it really just because they don't have the strategy? It's almost never that. There's mentors, there's books, there's courses, there's programs, there's all the free stuff on the internet. There's all the stuff you could always learn how. But oftentimes you know what to do and you still don't do it. Or you know what to do and you do it and then it doesn't work out and you get discouraged and then you stop when you could have persevered. So what's the difference that makes the difference? It's always who am I choosing to be? And so as an example, when I work with my clients, I help them recreate their identity and how they show up in the world. And it's a fairly involved process, but just to give you an end example of it, let's say as a declaration is an action that you take that creates possibility in the world. It's not an affirmation. From a declaration's perspective, if I were to say, I don't have children, but let's say I did. If I were to say, I am the world's greatest father, that doesn't mean I'm a better father than you. It's not a challenging statement. There's no comparison to superiority. It's saying that's the standard that I'm holding myself to, in the same way that Arnold would say, I am Mr. Olympia. So the moment I say, I am the world's greatest father, that's who I'm being. Then I say, well, what would the world's greatest father do in this situation when my kid's frustrated with me and ran upstairs? It's probably going to be very different than what I was about to do if I was in some angry, frustrated, pity state. If I'm the world's greatest husband, I'm going to treat my partner differently than if I'm thinking about me and all the things that I'm not getting and why it's not fair. That's a different way of being. And so you get clear for yourself, create my future from the future. See that version of you. Who are you being? Write the qualities down. Are you being respectful? Are you being bold? Are you being powerful? Are you being courageous? Are you being loving? And so you can write 1,000 of them. And then from that space, create your to-be list. What are the 5, 10, 30 things every day I want to strive to embody in this area of my life? And so there you are, you wake up in the morning and you want to, in theory at least, you want to go for a run or you want to go to the gym because you want to get healthier, you want to lose weight, you want to get fit, whatever you want to do. But you wake up and you don't feel like it. Now, what most people do is you snooze or you just say, I'll do it tomorrow, but then tomorrow never comes. But if you were to stop and say, hold on a second, what would future me do right now? The future me that had moments where he or she didn't feel like it, but they got up anyway. They get up anyway. And why? What would he or she tell herself? Or what would they think? And then you go, well, they would think this. And then you start thinking it. And you go, I guess I'm going to do it. And then you go do it. And you start acting that way. You want to ask somebody out, but you're afraid. But on your to-be list is bold. And you go, okay, what would be a bold thing to do right now? And then you just walk over and you start a conversation. And all of a sudden, you have a date. Or even if you don't, you have the confidence built up that, wow, I didn't die. Like I did it. It wasn't so bad. And now you can do it again. Being is the ultimate point of leverage, not doing. Everyone's looking for strategy. Everyone's looking for tactic. Everyone's like, tell me what to do. If it was that easy, people would read like a Warren Buffett book and they'd be Warren Buffett. It doesn't work that way. Strategy is important. Being is essential. If you don't have being, it's not going to last. So here are some obstacles that could get in the way of your success on your journey and how to prevent them. Number one is have clear boundaries. So have a big enough yes that it's easy to say no. In the beginning, Kavitha said something to the degree of like, we live in a TikTok world. You know, we live in this world where so many people, actually, I'm going to pause there because a thought just came to me. Early, Kavitha started with a Zig Ziglar quote where he said, motivation is like bathing. You know, you got to do it daily. It doesn't last. Who you're being is a daily creation. It doesn't last. And so every day you get to recreate yourself. Every day is a new day. But if you keep creating yourself from the past, you're going to get more of the same. And so back to this, you know, she said, TikTok world, living in distraction. And a lot of people don't have a clear yes, something that's so important that it's easy to say no. most people I speak to will tell me at some level, or at least at some point in their life, it was uncomfortable saying no to people. I look at your calendar, how you spend your time, your planner, and I say, is everything on here? Like, you're excited about that? You're happy? You chose that? And they go, oh no, there's like these 6 things on my week coming up. I can't stand those things. Why are they there? Because I said yes to them. Why'd you say yes to them? And it turns into some, oh, well, I felt bad and this and this. And it's like, you created that. Like, you did that to yourself. And this comes into this next part here. Every time we say yes to one thing, we're saying no to something else. Think of it like an opportunity cost. If you're not intentional about how you're creating your day, you'll say yes to everyone else's dreams, giving up on your dreams in the process. And that doesn't mean don't help other people. It means know what you're actually saying yes to, know what the cost is, and actually accept it. Like, be willing to make the sacrifice. I find that most people are out of integrity with themselves because they say yes when they mean no, and they say no when they mean yes. Like, actually say yes when you mean yes. If you're willing to take it on, own it. But then don't complain about it when you have it on the calendar. Like, you chose it. But don't say yes because you think you're trying to like save the other people. That's not what you're here to do. They are fully functioning people. There's other people in the world that can support them as well. It doesn't have to be you. And recognizing even that it's like, I have a party and you really don't want to be there. And I go, oh, you should come. And I'm saying that because I think you're going to have a great time, but you genuinely know you don't want to be there. Well, I don't want you to be there if you think you're going to have a horrible time. So you're doing me a favor, because if you do show up and you have that energy of this is going to suck, then from that space, you're bringing that energy into the party. You're weighing everything down. You do everyone a favor by not going, if that's the energy you're going to be in. And so have clear boundaries and have a big enough yes, something that's so important to you, whether it be your family, what you're after, the contribution goals you have, that you stick with it. I remember hearing Warren Buffett say the difference between millionaires and billionaires is that billionaires say no to almost everything. Millionaires chase shiny objects. Billionaires are so structured with their time. They make it so hard to get a hold of them so that their whole day is protected. They put walls of people around them to protect their time. Why don't you? When you come from that space, your life changes. So that to stay on track, remember who's counting on you, your family, your future self. Again, that version of you that disappears if you don't act in alignment with who they are, the people you want to impact and contribute to. What's the price of not sticking to your plan? It's you giving up on your goal, you giving up on your dream. And so coming from that space of what would future me do? When I was in med school, I had this whiteboard at the foot of my bed. And every day I would look at it. And the first quote on that whiteboard said, do something today your future self will thank you for. Another way of thinking about it is that future version of you down the path is looking at you going, my life is incredible. Please don't mess this up. My life is incredible. Please keep acting in alignment with who I am so that you step into this and you get to be this now. And from that space, again, you can't go wrong when you really start considering, what do I want? Why does it matter? How do I stay on track? What boundaries can I set up to protect the goal? Number 2 is specificity is key. So be really specific with your goals. Specificity is power. Oftentimes I ask people at a coaching session, maybe or it's even in the beginning, they're considering working with me, and I'll ask them, so what do you want? Tell me your goal, your dream. And they'll go, all right, so what I don't want is, and all of their focus is on what they don't want. And the thing is, wherever you put your focus, that is where your energy goes. It expands in your awareness. Going back to life happens, I interpret it, I experience my interpretation. Your interpretation is all you experience. So if my interpretation is, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this, your unconscious mind, your mind works in pictures. So I don't want this to happen. The only way you can understand that is you visualize it happening. And then you kind of like hope you put like an X on it, like a no smoking sign, So be really specific. What do you want? And then you write them down and you reflect on them every day. Something that many of you have been exposed to. Some of you maybe even do. But you write them down, you reflect on them every day. And then using some of the things I've shared with you, you emotionalize them to give them power. Who's counting on me? And I'm going to have an exercise to share with you in a moment that'll really hit that home. But who's counting on me? How would my life be better? Whose life would improve other than mine? How would life be different going forward? What am I going to be able to do? Why does it matter? what would that be like for me? Like, play with the questions. Don't just read the goals and like check the box. That's not going to do anything. But when you read it, you emotionalize it. Then you have a big enough yes to say no. Then you have a reason to protect your time. When somebody says, hey, are you free on Thursday at 3? And you look at your calendar and Thursday at 3, you have a block of time to meet with yourself to like brainstorm the week ahead. And all of a sudden you think somehow that's less important. So you say, yeah, sure. And you cancel that. No, that's the most important meeting of your week. Why are you canceling that? You're not free Thursday at 3. And you tell them that. And so from that space, your whole life can change. And then celebrate your progress over time. Like I mentioned earlier, when I said going after what I want happily, I'm at A, I want to get to Z. But then when I'm at B and E and D and et cetera, all these things, I pause and I say, wow, I'm not where I was before. Reflect on your business year by year by year, or if you're early in the process, month by month, week by week. Notice how much you're growing. Notice how much you learn. You're practicing an instrument. You're doing martial arts. Whatever you're doing, you get better over time. I remember a year ago, I got back into running. And at the time, I was like, you know what? I haven't ran since I was in high school. I was a track athlete, a cross-country athlete. And I said, I wonder if I can run my old high school PR. PR stands for personal record. And I was a 4:45 was my best mile. And the thought was, I wonder if I could do that again. So I get to a track and I try running a mile. I haven't run a mile in like 14 years. I ran a mile and I did like 10 something. And I said, oh my gosh. And then I kept showing up 3 days a week. And within a week or so, I was at 8 something. Within a month or two, I was at about 6:12. And within 3 months, I was at 5:54. And then I got injured. And so took a break from it. But the point there is, it didn't happen overnight. But I was celebrating that. I was thrilled with 8 minutes because it wasn't 10. It doesn't matter that it's not 4:45. Own the progress along the way. It gives you something to celebrate, to be happy about. And why would you not want your life day to day to be a celebration? And consistently check in. Is this still what I want at this stage of my life? So often we forget that you're free to change your mind. You set a goal a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and you've been going after it. But are you going after it because you still want it? Or are you going after it because it's the journey you've been on and you might as well finish it? That's a whole different way of being. So is this still what I want at this stage of my life, or have my goals changed? I have plenty of clients, big real estate people, and then they decide, you know what, I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm actually going to pivot. I'm going to keep what I have and I'm going to get out of this and I'm going to do something else because this other thing is really exciting. And I'm not getting excited right now from this. Understand what you want. Stephen Covey, he wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he's got a line in there where he says, the worst thing is to climb the ladder of success and to realize at the top that the ladder was against the wrong wall. You're spending your life and your energy and all these things, your attention, your time, doing something. Make sure it's actually what you want. It's the life that you want to live, not the life that other people expect you to live. So the two biggest fears that hold us back. The first is the fear of rejection. And so, again, normally when I can see everybody, but just, again, participate, please. You can still raise your hand. By a show of hands, how many of you have ever been afraid of rejection? And notice that at some point or another, whether it's now, teenager, you were a kid, at some point, we all had this. So then the question becomes, what is rejection? Because if we're all going to be afraid of it, or if a lot of people are going to be afraid of it, at least at some point or another, it's helpful to know what it is. And the thing that's interesting is that rejection is the story that you make up about what my no means. Rejection is a concept. Rejection doesn't exist. If I say, look out the window and point to the tree, the word tree is a concept. But there is an actual thing that you can touch. There's something there. And different languages call it different things, but even if we didn't have a name for it, it's there. Rejection doesn't work that way. Rejection is the story that I make up about what your no means. I'm asking for something, you say no, and then I make it mean something. And so from the place, this way of looking at it, it's amazing news. Because if I can only be rejected if I reject myself. I walk up to you and I say, hey, I've got this great opportunity. I think you'd love it. Do you want to hear about it? Now, I have no idea what your life situation is. I have no idea that you're going through a real hard time and now is not the time for you. So then you say to me, hey, I appreciate it. No, thank you. Now, I could take it as objectively as I can, meaning, no, thank you, period. He or she said, no, thank you. That's all that means. There's no other meaning. But that's not what most people do. Most people will take it a step further and say, oh my God, this is the fifth person who said no to me in a row. Maybe it means I'm not cut out for this. Maybe my friend or my parent was right. I'm never going to amount to anything. What's wrong with me? I suck. I got to do all. And then we dive into this interpretation that doesn't serve us. It disempowers us. Rejection is not real. And so if I say no, it means no. It means not now. It means no, thank you. Maybe ask me later, but some variation, that's all it means. Where are you reading into it more and making it something that stops you? If you were to say to me, how do you deal with rejection? I don't get rejected. But that doesn't mean people don't tell me no. I hear no often. It means I don't make anything up about it. I'm only rejected. Rejection is a feeling. I can't be rejected. I can feel rejected. That's a whole different thing. Who I am versus what happens in my life and my experience of it. So you cannot be rejected ever, but you can feel it. But whenever you feel it, going back to life happens in 3 stages, don't blame what they said. Don't blame what happened. Look at the interpretation. Back when I was in high school, 14 years old, the reason why I became a track athlete, I didn't make the baseball team. And baseball was like my life. I was so happy about baseball. And I thought I was really good. And I went to this tryout and I worked my butt off and I thought I crushed it. And then like a day or two goes by and you walk up and they got the piece of paper on the wall with the names and my name wasn't there and I was devastated. And it took me a couple of days to like bounce back from that. Now, 14-year-old me took that as rejection. But can it just mean that everybody else there who made the team was better at baseball than I was? Like, why does it have to be more than that? It's got nothing to do with me personally. Maybe they practiced more than I did. Maybe they just had more skill for whatever the reason. Maybe they went to baseball camp. I didn't do that. Whatever it is, it's not rejection unless I label it rejection. So first thing, again, rejection is a concept. It's not real. Where are you letting something that's not real influence your life in such a positive or negative rather way? The second fear, you have the fear of rejection, and now you have the fear of failure. Failure is also a concept. You can't point to failure. Failure in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, one of the tenets, the foundational principles is there is no failure, there's only feedback. You did something, you got a result. End of story. You always get a result. Now the question is it the result you wanted? Now, if it wasn't, rather than take it personally, what if you treated it like a scientist, where you look I'm running an experiment. The scientist goes into the lab and they have the little chemistry beakers everywhere. And they go, I wonder what's going to happen if I take this dropper thing and I add it into this beaker. And then they drop it and a little explosion happens. And now their hair looks like they got electrocuted. And they go, whoa. And they write it down. Don't do that again. Like, we don't want that. But it's like exciting. Oh, I did this and I figured that out. I found something out. You did something and you got a result. Is it what you wanted? And if the answer is no, how do you create that? What action did you take or not take? What did you say or not say? How did you create the result you didn't want? When you own it rather than blame, you can change. You can do something about it. You can learn from it. If you learn from it and say, it's a spiraling staircase. That's one of my favorite metaphors of life. It's a spiraling staircase. And as I go up, I'm learning the lessons and I'm getting better and wiser and stronger and faster and all these wonderful things. But I don't beat myself up for the learning process. Stumbles are going to happen. There's that old expression, I think the Chinese proverb, the secret to success is falling down 7 times and getting up 8. It's not never fall. Like, that doesn't happen that way. If there was going to be such a thing as failure, my definition, there's something that you really wanted and yet you gave up on it because it was hard, but you would have loved to stick with it. That to me is the closest you're going to get to failure, because you gave up on something that was really important to you because it was difficult when you could have pushed through. Other than that, there is no failure. Failure is a concept. You only fail when you say that you failed. And so when I said earlier, the 2 biggest fears that hold people back, think about it. So many people are so obsessed about what everybody else thinks about them that you think everyone's judging you when you fall. So you don't try. Meanwhile, everyone else is worried that you're judging them for their failure. Almost nobody is thinking about you. And I say that with love, with all the love in my heart for you. And so from that space, everyone's running their own race. Everyone's worried about their pimple. And they're saying, oh my God, they're going to see my pimple. And you're thinking that everyone's going to look at mine. Everyone's looking at their own. So stop worrying about failure. Just get feedback and improve. And stop worrying about rejection. It doesn't exist unless you interpret it in that way. So Walt Disney had a 3-step creation process. Whenever he would put together a theme park, a roller coaster, whatever it was, and I'd like you to please write this down because it applies to everything you want to create. Imagine, model, and critique. There's a 3-step process. In his first process, it was imagine, meaning if everything is possible without any restrictions, what would I love? What would just be incredible? We're going to take Magic Kingdom. We're going to put it on the moon. It's going to be beautiful. You're going to look up from the earth and you're just going to see the castle. It's going to be so big. I can't wait. Like literally that's the goal. Like you don't try to critique it. You just write it down. And then once you have it, you model it. Well, what would it look like? How are we going to get it up there? Where would we create it? Is it on the light side of the moon or the dark side of the moon? Or how big is it going to be? And have fun with it. And what steps would I take? Oh, we're going to call NASA. We're going to call Elon. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And you write it all down. And then you critique it. Now, critique is it feasible? What could get in the way? What might stop this from happening? Is it practical? Like all that kind of stuff. The problem is most people invert this process and they start with critique. So they have an idea of what they want and they immediately follow it with judgment about why it can't happen. And they immediately follow with, oh, but that's a little too big. That's a little too outlandish. I don't know if I could do that. That's bigger than I've done before. And they've just killed their creativity. They've just killed their imagination. Start with imagine, then go into modeling it, and then critique it. The importance of knowing yourself. And so ask yourself, what are my values? Values, really simply, what are the things that are important to you, that drive your decisions, drive your behavior? Remember that when values are clear, decisions are easy. I'm going to share with you, just for the sake of time, I'll move through this fairly quickly, but I'm going to share with you my top 10 values. Now, when I came up with these 10, which are right here, these are my business and my life values. I'll just share my top 5. Love, authenticity, impact, abundance, and freedom. Every decision I make in my business or my life runs through those 5. And because I know my values, it's always easy what decisions to make. Do I love this? Does it excite my spirit? Another way of saying it. Is this an authentic expression of who I want to be? Does it allow me to make a positive impact for one person, for a community, for a group, for the world, whatever it is? Does it increase my sense of abundance? And do I have more freedom? And when I think of freedom of money, freedom of time, freedom of location, freedom of relationships, and freedom of purpose. Meaning, does it allow me to work from wherever I want to work? Does it allow me to make the money that I want to make? Do I get to spend my time the way I want to spend it? Do I get to be with the people that I want to be? And do I get to work in a purposeful, meaningful way that's meaningful for me? If the answer is yes to all 5, I do it. If it's yes to the top 2 and 3, I do it. But if it's not a yes to the top 2 or 3, I don't do it, period. So often we get so trapped in the thinking of, should I do this? Should I do that? And it's because you don't know what you want. You don't know what's important to you. You don't know what you value. But when you can get clarity, just like your to-be list, who do I want to be? What are your values in your business, in your relationships, for your family, and all the different areas of your life? What is important to you? One-word answer is usually your ideal. Write them down. Create a top 5. Every decision filters through those. And when you do that, it's amazing how clear answers come. And like I say on the bottom, make all decisions based on whether or not they align with your values. I have your anticipation prevents reaction. Simple exercise you can use. I share this with clients. On a piece of paper, you have a little T chart, but you have like 3 columns. Goal, challenge, and solution. And it's real simple. Goal, what do I want? And you list them all out. Challenge, what are all the things that could get in the way of this happening? And so you might have 10 challenges for one goal, or more or less. And then for each challenge, what would I do if that happened, that challenge, to still win, to still get where I want to be? Well, what's the workaround? Now, if you actually did this exercise, you gave yourself 1, 2, 3 hours and you just really sat with this, you'd have this massive list of all these challenges with solutions. Now what ends up happening is, even though you're likely not going to anticipate everything, you'll anticipate most of the things that are probably going to happen, and eventually you get better and better at it. And now you're not reacting when something happens. You go, oh yeah, I thought that might happen. I already know exactly what I'll do. Now you just get rid of the fear and the worry, and that you just act. You just very decisively handle the situation. And it's incredible the shift that happens for you when you do that. So there's 3 types of accountability. There's self-accountability, which is you telling yourself, I'm going to start exercising tomorrow. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to do this at 6 a.m. 2 is a coach accountability. You hire someone to kind of hold you to whatever it is you said you were going to do, to challenge your thinking, to wake you up from the limited thinking that's holding you back. And number 3 is peer accountability. Peer accountability could be the people that you respect the most. It could be a mastermind group you're a part of. It could be a group like this where people are contributing to each other. It could be a friend. But whoever it is, you're telling people what you're up to. Because if I'm 250 pounds and I say my goal is to be 180, people say, oh, what are you up to? Like, in life. And I say, oh, glad you asked. I'm working right now. My commitment is by September 1st, I'm going to be 180 pounds and I'm going to look like this. And then I start telling everybody that. Well, what happens every time they see me going forward? How's that thing going? And all of a sudden, I don't want to be the guy who goes, oh crap, I'm not doing it. I tell everybody, because that lights the fire. Because when I don't feel like it, I don't want to feel inauthentic when I'm talking to people and saying that I gave up. And so I recommend use all 3 of these forms of accountability to move you forward. Then I have your performance necessity. Really simple. When you lose motivation, you've lost connection to why you're doing it in the first place. Performance necessity is something all the highest performers use. It's, as it's in the name, why do I need to succeed? The connection is mental and it's emotional. And you elevate your performance necessity by asking yourself, who's counting on me? How will their life improve when I succeed? Why do I have to succeed? And why do I have to succeed? And so just imagine as a visual, all the people in your life that you care the most about, whether they're currently there or people that you're going to meet in the future, if it's a relationship you're going to get into, or maybe you want to have kids, whatever it is, but imagine the people now or the people that you imagine will be there in the future, and just see them in your mind's eye and see them enjoying the fruits of your labor, in the sense that they have this wonderful quality of life, or they have access to certain things because of you. See yourself in the photo too. Everyone's laughing, having a great time. That's what happens if you stay on the path that you want to stay on and you make it happen. So now imagine being in a field and there's like a fork in the road with 2 giant IMAX screens on either side. And when you go down one of the paths, you look at it, and that's the path where you didn't follow through. You gave in early. It was hard, so you quit. You allowed your emotions to run the show, and so on and so forth. And you see how it negatively impacts them. You see how certain things that you were able to give to them, contributions you were able to make to charities, whatever the impact would be, you didn't get to do that. And you see the world is a little less brighter because you didn't step into your light, who you could be. And then from that space, you realize, I don't want that. If I could see you guys right now and we were doing this, and I went for the sake of time, I'm going a little bit faster. Oftentimes people cry when I do this with them, and they go, oh my, I don't want that at all. Every time you think, do I want to get up and go for that run? Do I want to take a chance and work on this business? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? I don't feel like it. See yourself at the fork. See the IMAX screens and know that whatever you decide, that's the road you're walking. Are you making a decision that's leaning toward the people that you care about most thriving and their life being better? Or are you making the decision based on a short-term temporary feeling of discomfort that's going to lead to a long-term consequence? And that's usually more than enough to get you moving forward. And the mental emotional release, this is an idea that sometimes emotional trauma is negative emotional energy and limiting beliefs created in our past. They can lead to self-sabotage today, and they reduce the amount of success we're able to experience. Symptoms of this can include consistent trouble, poor results in one or more areas of your life, hitting a glass ceiling. You achieve a certain level of success and you notice you can't seem to get beyond it, and a persistent mental and emotional experience that life just isn't serving you. You're not as happy as you could be. Something seems to be wrong. And releasing and clearing away this emotional baggage is crucial to realizing your next level of success. I think of it like you want to fly, but you have anchors on your feet. This process frees you from your chains. This is one aspect of what I do with people, because think of from a real estate construction perspective, you want to build a skyscraper, the tallest it can be, the foundation needs to be really deep. Otherwise, it's going to topple over. And so in that same way, how deep is your foundation? There are 4 necessities to you getting your goal. The first is emotional release work to create the foundation. The second is to create a goal that's meaningful for you. The third is to take action towards that goal. And the fourth is to maintain your focus when you get off course to get yourself back on course. Most people skip step 1 and they just do, what's my goal? They start working at it. And then at some point they get derailed and they don't make it and they wonder why. And almost always there's some unconscious stuff going on that's sabotaging. And I have found that throughout my work to be so useful. And so keep that in mind, that whether it's with me or anybody else, it's an important area that's often overlooked. And knowing when to quit. This is one of the final slides. The distinction of, am I quitting to avoid or am I quitting to create? Growing up, you, like me, probably heard expressions like, quitters never win, don't be a quitter, things like that. The thing, though, is that there is a time to quit. Are you quitting to avoid, which is what I said earlier that I would call failure or regret, meaning I really want this, it's important to me, it would be so great if it happened, but I'm a little bit discouraged and it's not fun and I'm gonna quit because I don't know what to do. That's something that you're gonna regret. I don't at all recommend quitting if that's where you're at. But then there's, am I quitting to create? Quitting to create for me is, wait, I'm actually not happy with this. I don't enjoy this. And it's not like there's something else that I want to do. This served me for a period of time, but this is what I really want now. And then from that headspace, I go, quitting this thing allows me to start the thing that really sets my heart on fire. Let's do it. Quitting is the best thing you can do in that situation. So recognize, don't just, blanket statement, quitting is bad. Sometimes quitting has a point. And so am I quitting to create or am I quitting to avoid feeling uncomfortable? Macro vision versus micro process. To put it real simply, I define macro vision. What do you want? What's the big picture? Most people don't know what that is. Once you get clarity around that, though, now you have it, but now it's not really useful to keep staring at it. You go into the micro process, which is the day-to-day. The micro process is, what do I need to do to win today? What do I need to do to take one step forward on my journey? Using my alphabet analogy, if I'm at B, what do I do today to get to C? It doesn't help to just keep staring at Z and go, one day I'm going to make it. Like, that doesn't do anything for you. Get clarity. How do I win the day? What actions can I take? And as my final story for tonight, I call this life can change in an instant. It's a personal story that I want to share with you all. It's the foundation of why I do what I do. And I ask you to listen to it from the space of not, this is just something that happened to Jamil. I want you to listen to it as how it can apply to you and what lessons you can take from it. So when I was 19 years old, I was a sophomore in undergraduate. I went to Fordham University in the Bronx and in New York. And I remember being there. It was about a Tuesday or a Wednesday. I think it was Tuesday. And I was a part of this pre-med group. And they had told us, hey, every year we have to go to Albany to fight to keep our funding. You're one of the students in the program. Can you come and share your experience? And I say, yeah, sure. We're going to leave Friday morning. We're going to get back Sunday night. Wednesday rolls around and I start getting this feeling, like a gut feeling, intuition. Something's not right. Don't go. And I, like most of us, when we get something like that, I ignored it. And then Thursday rolled around and it was louder. Something's not right. Don't go. And as the day went on, it got louder and louder. And it got to a point where I said, I can't keep ignoring this. And so I sent an email and I said, hey, I'm so sorry. Something came up. I can't make it. So pausing the story there, where in your life are you ignoring something that you just know to be true? Where are you ignoring that intuition, that instinct, that gut feeling, whatever you want to call that? It just feels wrong or it feels right, but you're ignoring it. So Friday rolls around, everybody left. I stayed, regular day. Saturday, regular day. Saturday night, I'm thinking, all right, well, I guess that was nothing. And I guess I just missed the event. Sunday morning changed my whole life. Sunday morning, I woke up, and shortly after I woke up, my dad had a brain aneurysm. And for anyone who's not familiar with what that is, imagine a blood vessel in the brain, think of it like a tube, starts to balloon out. And if you're fortunate, you have one of the worst headaches of your life. You go to the hospital, they take care of it, and hopefully you walk out and you're okay. My dad wasn't as fortunate. his aneurysm ruptured, and he was in a 4-hour brain surgery just fighting for his life. And we were told that he had a less than 5% survival chance. The neurosurgeon said it was the worst aneurysm he'd ever seen. 4 hours went by and he survived. It was already a miracle. He was in a coma, and the neurosurgeon said he's in this hypercritical state. He could die at any moment. And we walk into the room and I see my dad. To give you context, I'm 19, he's 49 at the time. I was 19, I'm not 19 now, but I was 19, he was 49. And he was a family practice physician. And he was also one of the top Elvis impersonators in the world. He's toured with Elvis's actual band. He's in the Elvis Hall of Fame. He's done all the stuff. And he was such like a ball of life. Like everyone loved him. And there he was in this hospital bed in the most vulnerable, situation I've ever seen a human being in. And in that moment, I had two primary experiences. First, I felt this immense sense of helplessness. Felt like I really couldn't do anything. I was just being told by nurses and doctors that he might die at any moment. And the second was the foundation of everything I do now. I felt this profound sense of regret. And the regret was coming from the knowing that I had taken my relationship with my dad for granted. Excuse me. I came from the headspace that I had time. I'm 19, he's 49. I've got 30, 40, 50 more years. I don't have to, spend time getting to know this man, soul to soul, man to man right now, learn from him, do all these things. My priorities were track and field, video games, movies, friends. Like that's all I did. And I was fortunate that, I loved him and he loved me, but we didn't really have that strong of a relationship. And there I was in that moment, realizing all the times I could have spent time with him that I didn't. And I recognized that I felt like I blew it. It felt like I missed my opportunity, that he's going to die at any moment and I'm never going to have that chance again. Fast forward 3 years. He lived 3 years before he passed away. And in those 3 years, he came out of a coma 2 to 4 months after. And we helped him make almost a full recovery over those 3 years. And I learned so much about myself and about life in those 3 years. For example, did you know that every single day, 150,000 people don't wake up? Every one of you who are here tonight weren't one of those people. And every one of you who are here tonight can point to at least a pet or a person or something that's important to you that woke up too. Maybe not everybody, but most woke up too, which means that, you woke up and you hit the lotto right from the get-go. And yet so many of us wake up and we think something out of the ordinary has to happen in order for us to feel happy, in order for us to feel grateful. You have like I said earlier, you're one thought away. You have everything you need already. By definition, if you needed it, you'd have it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Anything I need, I already have to have. And so from that space, it's like, okay, let me just get my thoughts in order. So every day, 150,000 people don't wake up. You weren't one of them. That's something to celebrate. Then I started noticing every single day my dad went to sleep, and I would wonder, is that the last time I'm going to see my dad? Is he not going to wake up? And then I'd go to sleep like that, and I'd wake up, and this happened for a year and a half. I'd wake up wondering, was that all a dream? And I'd come downstairs and dad would be there, but he'd be different. But I started having this shift and this this insight of, wait, dad's alive right now, regardless of he's not the way he used to be. He's alive right now. He might not be tomorrow. He might not be later on today. How can I make the most of this situation right now? And then I started expanding in my awareness, and I said, hold on. That's true for my mom. That's true for my sister. That's true for everyone that I ever meet. That's true for me. This might be the last talk I ever give. I might not wake up tomorrow. I can't guarantee I'm going to. So why would I hold back? This might be the last time you make love with your partner. This might be the last time you play with your kid. This might be the last meal you ever eat. Are you rushing it or are you savoring it? One of the best compliments I ever got once I came to that realization was, I'm known for my hugs. I gave my cousin a hug and she tells me, wow, I love your hugs so much. Every time you hug me, I feel like you're never going to see me again. And that just hit me right in the heart because that's what I was going for, but I didn't put that kind of word to it at the time. And it's like, wow. And the thing was, I might not. How do I know? I thought I'd see my dad again as he was before the aneurysm, and I never did. You know, two of my cousins in those 3 years passed away. One was 20 and one was 21. And one of them was sudden and the other one was relatively sudden. And if you asked either guy when they were 18, tell me about the life you envisioned for yourself, I promise you neither guy would say I'd be dead within 5 years. So from that space, the Dalai Lama says most people live as if they're never going to die, and then they die having never really lived. Most of us live in this procrastination of I'll do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and you call it today, and then you say, I'll do it tomorrow. And you keep pushing off your dreams. And then so there I was at his wake after 3 years, open casket, over 7,000 people came. I shook every single person's hand, and almost everyone said, your dad saved my life. And first I was immensely humbled by that to see the impact that he had. But I had this aha moment, this realization, I'd been playing small, that I was afraid of rejection. I didn't have this definition at the time of, it's the story that I make up about what everyone else's no means. I was taking it personally. And so from that space, I was afraid of rejection. I was holding myself back from who I could be. And I was dimming my shine. I was robbing the world of who I could be. One of my favorite words is enthusiasm, which comes from entheos or antetheos, and it means the God within. When you radiate enthusiastically, you shine your light for all to see. You shine what is uniquely you. And the people that are meant to be in your life, they show up because they recognize you. It's like you're a lighthouse. The boats that are meant to go to you, they go, that's where it is. I've been looking for him or her my whole life. And they pull in. But if you're wearing the mask, which is almost what everybody does, who do I need to be for you to love me? Who do I need to be special, validated, part of the popular crowd, whatever it is? Then you stop being the real you. And even when you think you won that game, you lost because you're wearing the mask and they don't love you. They love who you're pretending to be. They don't even know you. And at some level, you know that. So 10 years ago, when my dad passed, that mask came off. Actually, it was 10 years ago when my dad passed, that mask came off. And I never put it back on. And from that space, this is how I am all the time with everybody. And it's like from that space, be you. Be the authentic you. The number one regret of the dying, I wish I lived a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. I wish I lived my version of my life, not the life my parents or my community or the expectations that I thought everybody else had for me. Put all that to the side. What do you want? Where are you playing small? Where could you brighten your light? Where can you live a life without regret? Because like I said earlier, you're one thought away. That future you is counting on you, and your future is created by what you decide to do right now. Your life can change in an instant, regardless of what it's been up until this moment. You get to choose. Do I want to create the future from the past, keep living into that old story, or do I want to make a new story? And you always have that option. Right now, there's people in your life that may not be there tomorrow. Where could you hug them tighter? Where could you love them more? Where can you be kinder? You've got clients, you've got investors, you've got people in your world. Treat them like your best friend, treat them like your mom, treat them like your grandma, like love them. Like that's how they want to spend time with you. Come from a space of, when you come from, it's not some like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not some woo-woo thing. The number one business practice, love. It's a fascinating thing. That's why it's my number one value. When you come from love, when you play with me, you win. When you come from love, people want to be around you. When you come from love, opportunities show up and people give it to you gladly because they love being in your presence. You make them feel better. Everyone wins when they're working with you. And it's a joy to happen. Like bring love as a verb. Be loving in your actions and map it all again to future you. So bringing it all together, what you really want is how you believe you'll feel and who you'll become as a result of achieving your goals. Feelings and states of being are created by thoughts, not results. You don't have to wait. You have access to all the thoughts right now. Create your future from the future. What would I love? Who would I need to be? What would the future ideal version of me do in this situation? Do that now. Enforce your boundaries. Take action aligned with your values. Anticipate challenges rather than react to them so they become part of the plan. Release stuck emotional energy and limiting beliefs from your past. Get the proper accountability, whether it's yourself, a coach, whether it's peers, and stop waiting. Tomorrow isn't promised. The life of your dreams is here and now, waiting for you to step into it. Claim it because it's your time right now. So some questions to consider. What's something you've been putting off that you know will improve the quality of your life once you do it? What are you struggling with that if you solved would dramatically improve your levels of happiness and success? What goals and dreams would you like support accomplishing faster and more efficiently? And what's the first step you could take today to begin creating your desired future? When we finish this in a few moments, please do not just put your notes away and go to sleep and say, that was great, assuming you even like this. Commit to an action, actually do something, make a phone call, write something down, put something on the calendar, actually move forward. And this will be so worth the time that you've invested to be here. A couple ways I can support you before I throw it back to Kavitha. If you're looking for content, I've got 5 years, no, maybe more than that. I've got like 8 years of content on social media, videos, podcasts. My podcast is called Transformation Starts Today on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram, just at Dr. Jamil Sayegh. And my website's jamilsayegh.com. Plenty of content there to keep you satiated for years, and they could definitely help. I have an ebook you can get. It's free. It's called 20 Steps to Your Next Breakthrough. It's on the website. The audiobook is a couple dollars, but the ebook's free. And if you'd like to have a conversation and see how I can support you, if this has resonated, this is 1%. This is the tip of the iceberg. And so 3 things we can do on our call: identify what it is you really want, discover what's getting in your way, and create a plan to move you forward. If it's a good fit, we move forward, we make magic happen. And if it's not, we part as good friends, and hopefully I can point you in the right direction. I'll put a link in the chat, in the regular chat, not the Q&A. And then with that, thank you all so much. I appreciate your time. I'm going to stop the screen share, throw it back to Kavitha. And if there's any questions, comments, would love to hear.
Wow. I don't know what to say. I wrote a bunch of things on my notes, but I just want to say one thing, Jamil, to sum it all up. You know how they talk about there's something you want to hear, you repeatedly see it everywhere you go. And one of the things I saw last year was this message of removing the mask and just being authentic. And it's something that I've always thought I was good at, but I realized there were areas in my life that I still put on a lot of masks. And I had this experience where I went through this thing called ayahuasca, if you're familiar with it, last year.
Yeah.
And I got this thing that, I want to write a book, and it's the name I came up with is Unhide, just to get to being the more authentic us, because over childhood, over our experiences, we put on all these masks and we become someone we were not born to be. Yes. And then it's kind of this unlearning process to go back to who we were meant and born to be. So I just got like goosebumps when you said that. So thank you. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it so much. And I relate taking the mask off to coming home. Come home to who you truly are. Everyone, everyone, I say it's in quotes, obviously it's not an absolute, but most people, they're striving to become in their mind successful, not realizing that the life they're striving for, they don't actually want. It's the life they think they're supposed to have. You're not making anybody else happy, I promise you. Come from what would make you happy. Fill up your cup, just like on a plane where they say, put your mask on first. There's 2 ways. If I have my thermos of water here and it's filled to the top, and every time you walk up to me with your hand out and I give water and I give water and I give water, and then I go to get some myself and more hands come out. Okay, I stop. I give water, I give water, I give water. At some point, I only have a couple drops. And now the hands stop for a few seconds and I'm really thirsty. And I go to drink it and there's nothing left. And then the hands come out again. And now not only can I not help them, but I can't even help myself. But what's the opposite? The opposite is the greatest thing you can do as an act of self-love is to give to yourself first, prioritize you. Because when you prioritize you, you become the best parent, you become the best leader, you become the best partner. Because if you're burned out and you've got no energy, I promise you're not going to be the greatest mom or dad or husband or wife. But when you give to yourself, using the thermos again, I fill up my water and then I give from the overflow. And by giving from the overflow, I can give forever. Now I can actually be an asset to everybody for the rest of my life, and I don't burn out along the way. And so would love to hear if anybody, I know there's a lot of stuff here in the chat. If anyone has any questions, by all means, please feel free to ask it. Or if Kavitha, if there's anything you want to add, and we can go back and forth on it for a bit.
I think it's just, for me, I wrote down a lot of key points. I feel like I have to rewrite my 2023 goals. I do really do. So yeah, I think it's a lot of information to digest, and I feel like I need to sit down and actually digest a bunch of this stuff and reread my notes. So I hope everybody does the same today. If you have any questions, feel free to ask that right now. I know we are way over time, almost 2 hours in, so I want to be respectful of people's time, and I think people started dropping somewhere along as well. So if no one has any questions, we're going to call it a night. And thank you, Dr. Jamil, for, I don't know, incredible. A lot of things I took down notes about. Work towards my goal happily. For me, those were really important things, because you just start working and you don't really know why you set that goal. And then you just think, oh, this is going to make me happy. And yeah, that was profound, just working towards my goal happily. So thank you again.
If I can share something. So this idea that I just put a link in the chat again, I highly recommend, whether you want to reach out or not, that's completely up to you. Click the link, and on the link, you're going to find the podcast, videos, blogs, all the stuff. Because what ends up happening, I try to do what I can to help people anticipate challenges that arise. Some of you, if not, I've seen some people in the comments saying some really beautiful things. I appreciate you for that. Are sitting here going, oh my God, like I needed this, like something really resonated. But then 2 days from now, a week from now, you're surrounded with the same people, life gets busy, things are happening, and you forget this stuff because it's not top of mind. And maybe you don't know where you put your notes, or you haven't reviewed it in a while. Having, whether it be the podcast or some videos, like I make these videos a minute or less on purpose, so that it's just a quick little jolt to just get into your head and shift how you're thinking. And it's like from that space, I've just found it really useful to just stay in communication, even if it's like virtually. Stay in communication with the content. The podcast, I think there's been 31 episodes, and like I'm so grateful that you've listened to a few of them, and it's been very amazing to hear people tell me not only it's helped them, but I've had clients tell me it's like being in a session, like they get so much from it. And so I share it again because I know it's powerful content. I know it'll help people. And again, if you want to reach out, the link is there. It's been such a pleasure and a privilege. Thank you for the honor again of your time, of your energy, of your commitment, of being here. And if there's
there is one question, but maybe we should take it offline. If you can reach out to Dr. Sayegh, I just want to be, again, we are 2 hours in, so I want to be respectful for everybody's time. Thank you, everybody, for staying in for as long as you did. I appreciate your time, and I hope you got a lot of value, and it shapes your perspective going into 2023 and way beyond that. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night. Hi, I'm Kavita Bartake. I hope you found this video useful, and if you did, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you can get notified of any future videos I upload. I plan to cover a lot of investor education on this channel, and I hope you'll stay with me for it. If you have any feedback on future content you'd like to see me cover, please drop me a note or a comment on my video. Thank you for watching, and thank you for supporting me.